person on your right and ask them if they silenced their phone. Now, turn to your person on the left. Say, have you silenced your phone? Now, if we happen to hear a cell phone ring, the person whose phone rings, and the person to their right, and the person to their left can split the hefty fine that they will be assessed by to make a nice contribution to our Founders Fund. The energy is amazing. Is it not unbelievable? And is this not what Pilot is about? I did not make the mistake of asking Laura did I have to stay with the script. And I'm not going to look to my left to make eye contact with her. But I cannot extend a warm enough welcome to you to this, our 100th Anniversary Luncheon. Precisely 100 years from this very date, the very first Pilot Club meeting on October the 18th, 1921 was held right here in Macon, Georgia. Can you imagine in 100 years when someone is standing perhaps in this very place talking about how 200 years ago, the 200th anniversary, and then 100 years, and that you are part of this historic moment of historic occasion. Thank you so much for making the effort and the time to be here. I know many of you are traveling on the heels of an exhausting weekend. So again, like I said, I can't welcome you enough, I cannot thank you enough, but I don't have a doubt in my mind that none of us will leave here so thankful and grateful that we were here to participate in this special day. I want to say especially to the Pilot Club of Macon, happy anniversary. Through the history of Pilot, we have had 982 clubs. But thank you, Pilot Club of Macon, for staying the course so that we could come back to the founding city and be represented by those pilots that followed the path of those original 40 businessmen. Thank you so much. Those who are sitting at the head table. Please hold your applause until all have been recognized. To my far left, Laura Keeler, 2000-2001 Pilot International President, and also the Chair of the 100th Anniversary Committee. Pat Vickers, President, Pilot Club of Macon. Polly Baker, Vice President, Pilot International. To my far right, Susan Hoffman, 2010-2011 Pilot International President and President of the past International Presidents. Dr. Henry Finklin, Director of Community Affairs, Office of the Mayor of Macon. We also have several other special guests that we are honored to have with us today. Will you please stand as I call your name, remain standing, and everyone would hold their applause till all have been introduced. Mr. Jeremy Timmerman, Communications Specialist, Macon Bibb County Schools. Jeremy worked with Laura and Judy in planning a wonderful service project where pilots gave school supplies to students in priority schools of Bibb County. Thank you so much, Jeremy, for all the help that you gave us in making that service project such a success. And pilots, just a reminder, we collected over $21,000 in school supplies that were delivered. Mr. Byron Higgin, Account Executive from Panaprint. Byron is our contact for pilots' printing needs at Panaprint. They print our pilot logs and our brain minders books. They printed the headquarters brochure and donated the notepads in our convention packets this year. They also will be printing our 100th anniversary book. Thank you, Byron, for being with us today and what you do for us for Panaprint. Next, Justin Bradley, Vice President for Cadence Bank. Pilot has its operating account with Cadence Bank. Justin is always available to answer our questions about our banking needs. Thank you, Justin. And you may be seated. We've mentioned, and I think maybe perhaps they stood previously, but we're going to have them stand again. And that is the Pilot Club of Macon. Would you please stand again, Pilot Club of Macon? With us today at this luncheon. And we want to ask them to stand now. Okay. I'm going to, again, let's see, where is Gail? Okay, Gail, okay. I'm going to attempt to do this. You can wait, Mr. name is called Gail Gator for the Michigan, Indiana District. Robin Williams, Georgia District. Barbara Sheffield, Hartland District. Kelly Alexander, Texas District. Kathy Clancy, Virginia District. Nancy Harris, North Carolina District. Patty Davis Bennett, Mississippi District. Karen Ferguson Bain, the Bahamas District. Karen Beck from the Northeast Potomac District. Donna Skipper, South Carolina District. Charlotte Annenfield, Florida District. They named themselves the C3 Governors, and I couldn't be more proud to serve with them. We also have some former staff members from the International Headquarters joining us today. Would you please stand as I call your name? Paige Gibson, Cynthia Banks, and Melanie Elliott. Let's show our appreciation. We are so fortunate to have such a special and capable staff at headquarters currently. And I would like to introduce them to you now. Please stand as I call your name. our Director of Communications, Michelle Bliss. Michelle, okay. Amy Martin, our Founders Fund Specialist. Our Accounting Specialist and Office Manager, Leah Smith. Our Club Services Director, Claire Wells. And our Youth Development Director, Susan Woodward. Let's thank them for what they do. In addition to Holly, we have some other executive committee members with us today that I'd like to present to you. Again, please stand as I call your name. Let's hold our applause till all of you introduced. Lisa Patterson, County International Secretary. Nikki Dawkins, County International Treasurer. Joseph Cunningham, County International Director. Susan Paul, County International Director. And Lisa Palmquist, County International Director. We thank you. Just like we are indebted to the Pilot of Macon for their continuous service to Pilot International, we have another group of individuals who we are indebted to for the leadership and service that they have given to us. And I'm speaking of the Pilot International presidents. Again, I would like to introduce them and ask you to hold your applause until they all have been recognized. Betty Duval King, 1976, 1977, and sometimes you may know her as Pearl. Janice Watson, 1993, 1994. Nancy Hendrick, 1998, 1999. Laura Keeler, 2000, 2001. Sharon Slusher, 2001, 2002. Marianne Frazier, 2004, 2005. Cindy Weaver, 2005, 2006. Judy Rowe, 2007, 2008. Debbie Archer, 2008, 2009. Pat Jarvis, 2009, 2010. Susan Hoffman, 2010, 2011. Beverly Wilkes, 2011, 2012. Winnie Brewer, 2012, 2013. Judy Lehman, 2013, 2014. Connie Moore, 2016, 2017. Karen Cubic, 2018 to 2019. Debbie Hayes, 2019 to 2020. And Katie Benton, 2020, 2021. Thank you, ladies, for all that you have done. They are an incredible group, and even though that their year of service is past, their service continues in many, many ways, and we are thankful for what they do for us. Is there anyone here today that attended the 50th anniversary of Pilot earlier, either in New York or in Macon? Anyone? Okay, Betty, Judy, Paige. Those three? Okay, thank you so much for joining us 50 years later. At this time, I would like to recognize 2021-2022 Inspirational Leader Celeste Sherrill.
Thank you, Madam President. As we've been preparing for this 100th anniversary for many years. It's taken a lot of time and energy. And when I was asked to do the inspirational message today, I thought, how in the world do you encompass 100 years of friendship and service and celebration? And it came to me, I realized, we're twice as old as Disney World. But what I thought about was what inspires an organization, a volunteer organization, to continue for 100 years. And it occurred to me that it has to go back So I looked at, excuse me, shameless promotion here. If you don't have this book of through the years, the International President story, every club should have one of these. But it was my resource to see what inspired our past leaders, specifically our past international presidents. The technical difficulties. I'm a little bit taller than Colette. Some people are inspired by the beauty and quiet of nature. Don't you love meeting people? Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, that's awesome. Can you hear me? I can hear me. That's the scary part. Some people are inspired by the beauty and the quiet of nature. Some people are inspired by music. People are inspired by their faith and scriptures. Other people are inspired by the real life stories of service and success, or those who have overcome obstacles. Some people, me, are inspired by observing others, not just their successes, but the entire journey, even the messy parts. We all know that the path to leadership is definitely a journey. So let's look at the themes and the focuses that our past leaders chose to inspire us during the past 100 years, or their term as international president. And no, I'm not going to quote every 100 of them. The 100th Anniversary Committee and the headquarters staff put together the book that I showed you of our pilot history through the years. It's a resource of history, but to me, it's a resource of inspiration and a record of these leaders' journey. I would imagine that the choice of theme or focus had a lot to do with what was on the heart of these leaders, or the best feature that they saw in Pilot, or maybe the important issue of the day. Each of these themes continues to be relevant to us today. In 1946, for the 25th anniversary, having just come out of the Second World War, they chose a theme of patriotic service and women's responsibilities as world citizens. 1971 marked 50 years of Pilot International, and it was named the Gateway to Golden Goals. And participation, the Golden Link of Progress. Both of these are still appropriate. 1996 marked a time to celebrate 75 years of pilot friendship and service, as well as setting goals and mapping plans for the future. We continue to do those today. At least one of our leaders was inspired by music and chose the theme, the Pilot Melody, growth and service. Since then, we've been inspired by Mission with a Vision, Radiating Everyday Miracles, and Soaring on the Wings of Pilot Love. Since then, we've been inspired by service through leadership and growth. It's always important, as well as excelling in service worldwide and celebrating our cultures. Pilots will always be inspired by the spirit of service and the galaxy of friendship in our communities. We are proud to be a pilot because pilot is great. Friendship and service, fun, and laughter. It makes it easy to catch the pilot spirit. Our legacy continues with friendship and service around the world as we celebrate pilot past, present, and future. We're still reminded to believe, inspire, and reinforce our commitment to excellence. The brilliance of service, the gift of self, will always be an inspiration to Pilot Club members, and we will use progress and positivity as we are charting a course in a world of service. We continue to explore the possibilities because we are Pilot International. We're inspired by the enthusiasm of we are Pilot as we move forward together and believe in the possibilities of the next 100 years. I would like to leave you with a summary from the annual report of Nella Bailey, who was PI president in 1936-37. She said, "Pilot is growing. Pilot will grow strong and more useful and more beautiful in the years to come, because its foundation rests on the fundamental facts of life and relationships. We are interested in giving, not getting. We sincerely desire to do our part toward making a more healthy and happy world. This means that we must not only improve ourselves personally, deepen the wellspring of our own lives and character, but join hands and hearts with every cause designed to promote the well-being of community and country. True thinking and unafraid doing must characterize our program. We must do more than stand for something that is worthy. We must live and work for that which is worthy." This summary spoke volumes to me, not just because of the inspiration, but because of how appropriate it is to our organization even today. It shows the consistency and the continuity of our leaders' focus through 100 years. No matter what inspires you on your journey, let's purpose to look for inspiration every day and be thankful for the inspiration and chosen focus of these wonderful leaders as we look forward to the next 100 years. I love Zig Ziglar's quote, but I'll paraphrase one. He said that motivation and inspiration don't last, but neither does bathing. That's why you have to do them every day.
Thank you, Celeste. We appreciate your inspiring thoughts. And with that being said, please enjoy your lunch. I think you've already expressed our thanks to Chef Michael and the staff for serving. And as sometimes we say in life, the best is yet to come. But in view of our time, we are going to continue our program at this time while the dessert is being served. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce someone, no, not introduce, because we all know her, to present someone who has worked tirelessly and who has led the charge to make this event as special as it is. So I'm very pleased to ask Laura Keemer to come to the microphone.
Madam President, it is truly amazing what we have accomplished as individuals and as an organization in 100 years. Today, we sincerely thank and honor our founders and wish to share with you some of the highlights of our heritage. To help us do this, we have some very distinguished guests with us today. It is my honor to introduce the first president of Pilot Club International, Miss Lucy B. Hadley.
It is such an honor to be here today, just almost unbelievable to think it's been 100 years. You know, I want to tell you that one of the very hardest decisions we had to make in the beginning was what we were going to call our organization. We thought about Axis, Keystone, Pioneer, and Apex, but finally decided that we should be Pilot. On October the 16th, Judge Malcolm D. Jones granted us a charter for, now listen, Pilot Club International from the very beginning. We had our first official meeting 2 days later. And the first service project that we tackled, a bond issue for the school system here in Macon, had been defeated mostly because of lack of interest. So we decided that we could secure enough names on petitions to call for another election, and then we encouraged people to vote. And of course, we were successful in getting that bond issue passed. From the very beginning, we immediately started forming pilot clubs. And by May of 1922, we had 4 clubs. We had a fundraising show at the Dempsey Hotel on May 27th in 1922. And after that, we held our first international convention, officially opening the meeting at 11:30 at night. I think I've been to some of those myself. It was at that time that I was elected president of Pilot International. It was at our 5th convention in Montgomery, Alabama, that Pearl Sparks presented our beautiful code of ethics, and we officially adopted it as our permanent code of ethics. That first decade was one of making many decisions that shaped Pilot into what it would become. It was also a decade of chartering new clubs. By 1929, we had clubs in Georgia, Alabama, Florida, and Texas, and we were 14 clubs strong and still growing. So that sums up sort of our first decade. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Nell Gardner, PI President, 1931 through 1933. Nell.
I was installed at the 10th Annual Convention of Pilot International, which was held in Pensacola, Florida. Immediately after the convention, I went home to El Paso, Texas, and I had all the money that Pilot International had at that time, which was $628. In order to keep it safe, I put it in the bank immediately. A few days later, the banks closed and the Great Depression was upon us. I immediately called the secretary of Pilot International and said, we need to make some money. Will you call all the clubs who are delinquent with their dues? And she did, and everyone responded. I even sold some of my furniture just to replace those funds. And by the end of my term, I had $1,800.65. In 1932, we organized our first international club. The Pilot Club of Juarez, Texas, made us international. As we continued to grow, the executive committee continued to realign our districts. At that time, which was 1938, we had 9 districts. Of course, we decided that all the clubs in Georgia should be called District 1. And during the 1939-1940 year, Macon, Georgia was officially selected as the location for Pilot headquarters.
Miss Wilda Richardson was employed as our executive director, and she worked in a one-room office at the Georgia Casualty Building. We paid all of $25 a month for rent. It was approved by Pilot International to purchase an ambulance for the Red Cross, American Red Cross, at the cost of $1,300. This was our first international project, and Pilot International, 20 years later, we were growing and going strong.
Thank you, Nell. Our next guest is Ethel G. Hall, who served as PI president from 1941 to 1946. Ethel?
Madam President, yes, you heard her right. As we returned home from the convention in Houston, Texas, we were planning our 20th anniversary. The next spring, I had sent out the call to International Convention in Columbus, Ohio, when I got a wire from the Office of Defense Transportation asking all groups to cancel any conventions they had planned. So, of course, we unfortunately had to cancel ours. Pilots, however, continued to serve their communities. The 25th annual convention was finally held in New York City the summer of 1946. Pilots voted to call this convention the 25th instead of the 20th. As we began the celebration of our 25th anniversary, we had 173 clubs and over 5,000 members in 23 states. In the fall of 1946, Executive Director Wilda Richardson went to Windsor, Ontario, and completed the organization of the Pilot Club of Canada. The 27th annual convention was held in Daytona Beach. The convention banquet was the most unique ever held. The banquet attendance increased beyond the dining room facilities. The city placed lights in the palm trees of the large hotel lawn, blocked the surrounding streets, and head table was placed on the long porch overlooking the lawn. The moon added its beauty to the occasion. Thus, the largest convention in Pilot's history came to a glorious end with 746 members in attendance. Extensions took another long jump, this time to France. Antoinette Morris, a member of the New York Club, on a visit to her family, organized the Pilot Club of Paris. Her daughter, who was with her, then went to England and chartered the Pilot Club of London.
Thank you, Ethel. Our next guest is the author of Gone with the Wind, and she has a story to tell you about Pilot's largest project. Please welcome Miss Margaret Mitchell.
President, it's an honor to be with you today as you celebrate 100 years of service. In 1948, I met an airplane pilot from the village of Anniversary, France. He told me how his village had been bombed by the U.S. Air Force during the war, and after they had received some false information. 220 people were killed that day, and the village was badly damaged. I asked a friend of mine who was a pilot member if she thought Pilot Club International would be willing to help rebuild the village. At the 1949 convention, pilots approved a 5-year project to help with the restoration of the Vermilion. As always, pilots undertook this project with heart and soul. Because of pilots, many areas of the village were restored, including the schools, the beautiful stained glass windows in the local cathedral. To express their thanks to the members of Pilot International, the town square was renamed Square du Pilot Club International in 1958. makes such a difference in so many lives in this small town. If your travels ever take you to France, please be sure to visit this wonderful village.
Our next guest is Helen Hoffman, 1951-52 PI Crest. Helen?
Madam President, the early 1950s was a time for many pilot firsts. Pilot International received national and international recognition through participation in many causes. For the first time, Pilot was invited to be one of the judges for the Freedoms Foundation Award Jury at Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. It was also during this decade that the sponsorship of anchor clubs for teenage girls was approved. 5 anchor clubs were already operating under the guidance of pilot clubs, and these were in Georgia, Florida, and North Carolina. The convention body approved the organization of Past International Presidents Club, also known now as PIPS. Their objective would be to keep an up-to-date history of pilot, and the expense of the compiling history would be borne by this club. As of June 1st, 1952, there were 317 clubs. They were located in Bermuda, Canada, England, France, Japan, Mexico, the United States, and Hawaii. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Our next guest is Jean Conacher, 1956-57 PI President.
Madam President, at the 1956 convention, I became the first president from outside the United States. Also, I had the honor of being installed by our first president, Lucy B. Allen. The first annual convention was held outside the United States was in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. For the first time, the convention opened with a flag ceremony. I understand you've continued this tradition through the years. Alaska had just been admitted as the 49th state, and the 1958-59 PI President, Mildred Bradshaw, presented the flag of Alaska to Freedom's Foundation from Pilot International. At the 38th annual convention, the co-pilots began the tradition of presenting flowers to the PI President. The main business of that convention was the complete revision of the PI and standard bylaws for pilot clubs, following more than a year of intensive study. Not the first time we had done this, and I've been told it would not be the last.
Thank you, Jean. It is now my pleasure to introduce Cookie Brooks Smith, 1964-65 Pilot International President. Cookie?
The decision was made to purchase a permanent headquarters building, a fitting way to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the establishment of headquarters in Macon. Pilot clubs and pilots were given the opportunity to make gifts and pledges payable over a 3-year period. Funds were raised by publishing a series of cookbooks, and play corsages were worn during the convention, and $3,000 was raised for the building fund. Our plan was to have the mortgage paid in 10 years, but we had it paid off in just 2 years.
walked out of my shoe when I got up. Thank you, Cookie. Our next guest is Mabel Green, who served as president during the 1969-70 year. Mabel.
Madam President, actually, Violet Parsons was installed as the 1969-1970 president. Unfortunately, she died after 15 days in office, which says a little something about what it's like to be Pilot International president. And I automatically became president. I was honored to attend a conference at the Salk Institute in San Diego, California, as pilots have been donated to the Institute. And I had my picture made with Dr. Jonas Salk, standing before a plaque inscribed with the name Pilot International. One of the most successful programs inaugurated this year by PI was a joint sponsorship with the President's Committee on the Employment of the Handicapped. This was the Handicapped Professional Woman of the Year Award. Pilot International dedicated 2 schools in Panama in honor and memory of Violet Parsons in conjunction with CARE. As we flew in from Panama City on 2 5-seater planes, we flew low over 3 of the islands so that we could see pilot-supported projects: a 2-story community center in Sasapi, a library building in Malatupo, which also provided community offices on the 2nd floor, and a faculty house for 4 teachers of Tubualo. I'm from Texas, I don't know how to say that word. Our many CARE and pilot projects have been truly helpful to people in many third world countries, with pilots furnishing the money, CARE procuring the materials, and the natives constructing the building.
Who served as our president during the 50th anniversary. Francis.
Thank you. It was my honor to serve during the 50th anniversary. On October 4th, just days before our 50th anniversary, we were saddened to learn that our charter president, Lucy B. Allen, had passed away. On the weekend of October 16th, we held celebrations for 2 days in Macon with over 900 pilots and friends present. Pretty cool. Executive Director Wilda Richardson retired, and Cookie Brooks became Executive Director. The first Freedoms Foundation Leadership Seminar for Anchor Clubs was held in March 1972 in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. The communique was first published as a means of communicating with the entire membership. In 1975, the Pilot International Charitable and Educational Foundation became the Pilot International Foundation, governed by a board of trustees.
Thank you, Francis. I would now like to introduce and welcome 1988-89 PI President Doc Franklin.
Madam President, during the 1980s, pilots continued
vision of helping people in third world countries through our partnership with CARE. We made a tremendous difference in countries such as Haiti, Sierra Leone, and West Africa. In the spring of 1983, Cookie Brooks Smith retired as Executive Director of Pilot International, and Dot Lewis became our third Executive Director. President Phyllis May presented a check for $100,000 to Henry Winkler for the United Cerebral Palsy Association during a national telethon in California. During the 1986-1987 year, an informal organization of the clubs outside established districts co-ed was instituted. At the 1988 convention, the bylaws were amended to remove reference to gender as a qualification for membership. All states presented a check for $25,000, bringing their total contribution to pilot safety and health programs to $400,000. Our special project during my year as president was St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. Our donation of $135,000 was used for research and treatment of pediatric AIDS. Founder Danny Thomas was one of our best speakers at convention that year, and I was honored to present him with that check. The 69th Pilot International Convention at Opryland Hotel in Nashville was the largest pilot convention on record with 2,490 members attending. During this convention, delegates voted to change the word woman to pilot in our code of ethics. This was the first time and last time the code has been changed.
Thank you, Don. Our next speaker is 1996-97 President Joanne Horton.
Brain disorders became pilot's new ongoing service focus in the early 1900s. Executive Director Dot Lewis retired on August the 1st, 1993, and Cynthia Mills was hired as our new Executive Director. During this same year, the Pilot International Foundation became a 501c3 organization. And in 1995-96, the foundation exceeded $1 million in grant disbursements, from helmets to music therapy, from special slings to computers for inter-city children, from very special arts to camper ships, and pilots continue to provide community services. Pilot's 75th anniversary celebration is among the most memorable highlights of the 1996-1997 pilot year. I had the honor of presiding over the 75th anniversary luncheon on October the 18th, 1996 in Macon. More than 600 pilot members and guests, including 6 past international presidents, were in attendance. The 1997 convention was held in Honolulu, Hawaii. Pilot's first international pilot walk was held, and tropical rain did not deter the 637 pilot walk attendees on the morning of July 22nd. A record of from the walk by the foundation. Good Morning America captured the event for us, future broadcast, taping pilots as they walked for brain-related disorders. In 1997-98, the pilot was recognized for raising more than $300,000 for Alzheimer's research. Executive Director Cynthia Mills resigned in December, and Peggy Davidson served as interim executive director until Frank Soloville was hired and introduced at the 78th convention.
Thank you, Joanne. Our next speaker is Judy Grove, 2007-2008 president. And this really is Judy.
Madam President, at the very beginning of the 2001 year, we learned that Pilot International and our foundation each received a generous gift of $101,000 from the estate of the late Callie Neese. She was a charter member of the Pilot Club of Atlanta and a past governor of the Georgia District. Funds from the Callie Neese estate were used to develop and fund Brainminders, our signature project. Clubs immediately began presenting programs in creative ways. By the summer of 2005, Brainminders had been presented over 9,000 times to approximately 343,000 children. A garden was designed in order to raise funds for our newly created endowment. It was to be behind the Monroe Goolsby House, which the Pilot Club of Macon had donated to PI. When the decision was made to sell the Monroe Goolsby House as well as the PI headquarters, the project was put on hold. The 25th anniversary of the foundation ended on a high note when it was reported at the convention that pilots, for the first time ever, had reached their goal and raised over $175,000 for the funding of grants and scholarships. Early in 2001, $25,000 was given to St. Jude's Children's Hospital Research to be used for research on pediatric brain tumors. At the 2003 convention, Gene Saunders, founder of the Project Lifesaver, introduced the program to pilots. The program uses a radio frequency system equipping law enforcement officers to search and locate people with Alzheimer's or autism who have wandered from their caregivers. Pilot became a partner with Project Lifesaver during the 2005-2006 pilot year. The Bahama District was chartered during the 2004 PI-PIF convention. In the fall of 2005, Executive Director Frank Saldiver resigned and Peggy Davidson became Executive Director. Construction of our new headquarters began in 2006, and I have the honor of presiding over the opening of the building on February 9, 2008. On January 31st, 2009, we again met at headquarters to dedicate our beautiful garden. Finally, 9 years later, it was a reality. The ECBOT decided to bring to the 2010 convention body the question of the tax reclassification, I'll learn to talk in a minute, of Pilot International from a 501c4 to a 501c3 at the beginning step of merging the two organizations. This was the beginning of another big change for Pilot.
Thank you, Judy. Our last guest is Karen Cupid, 2018-19 president. Karen?
Madam President, you will notice that many past presidents wear these. The last decade of Pilot has brought on many changes and advancements. Of course, our technology has improved tremendously and has made a positive impact in our ability to market our organization. We have seen the creation of do more, care more, be more, and we live it each and every day. We had a complete revision of the bylaws at the 2012 convention, and another major revision was done again in 2018. The policies and procedures were revised in 2019. PI was reclassified as a 501c3 organization. Compass has been reinstated and is growing, and we're excited to see that. An Anchor website has been created, and Anchor is growing. They are an exciting group of people. Strategic planning continues to be a priority and is taken seriously as we move to our next generation. Giving Tuesday continues to grow, giving us funds for various programs. And pick-me-ups have become very, very popular with our clubs, our districts, and PI. What a wonderful pick-me-up project we did for 16 schools here in Macon in August. Many additional resources continue to be created and added to our Brain Miners program. And in 2019, a new signature project was added. The Helmet People Project is an independent project that can be used alongside our Brain Miners program. They are a wonderful combo. And what have we all learned recently? We all know how to sing.
Thank you, Karen. From our first project of getting a bond passed for the school system in Macon to the projects that clubs are currently doing, we continue to help people in our communities, throughout our countries, and around the world. We have made a difference, and we will continue to do so. Madam President, this concludes our program. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura and Judy, for the creation of this delightful presentation. And thank all of our special guests for making the trip to Macon. It is my pleasure now to recognize Dr. Henry Cleveland from the Mayor's Office. Dr. Cleveland.
Madam President, and I also want to acknowledge the president of our local Macon Pilot Club, our president. Tip O'Neill said all politics is local. On behalf of Mayor Lester Miller, and on my own behalf, I want to say welcome to all of those of you who have traveled so far to come here to be in this place in Macon on this day. And if he was here, he would say it is a great day in Maconville County. And certainly I agree with him to think that we are hosting an international meeting here in Macon. And because of the wonderful way that you acknowledge Macon, the mayor has issued this proclamation, and I read it at this time. Proclamation, Office of the Mayor, Maconville County, Georgia. Whereas Pilot International was formed as a volunteer service organization for business and political women in Macon, Georgia in 1921, and has since expanded to include men and women from around the globe from all walks of life. And whereas in the beginning, Pilot International has had an emphasis on community service, meeting the needs of others and leadership, which has given focus to club projects, and whereas this tradition has been carried forward to the current standard of dedication to service with the commitment of Pilot Club International District and club leadership, and whereas Pilot Club members in 5 countries are continuing to follow their mission of transforming communities by developing youth, providing service and education and uplifting families, and whereas Pilot Club members internationally continue to make a difference in their communities as they work towards their vision of a world where all are valued, and whereas Pilot Club members continue to volunteer and serve through their charge to do more, care more, and be more. Now, therefore, I, Lester M. Miller, do hereby proclaim October 18, 2021 as Pilot International Day in Macon County, and I urge all citizens to express appreciation to them for their services rendered to the community as they celebrate their 100th anniversary. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the consolidated government to be affixed this 11th day of October 2021, and it is signed by our mayor, and I proudly present it to you.
Thank you, Dr. Manley. We are honored to accept this proclamation and will display it proudly at our national headquarters. Now I'd like to recognize Judy.
Madam President, if you would please repeat me. It has been my pleasure to work with the governor's office, not officially on the payroll, but chatting with them to give us a commendation from the state of Georgia. And so on behalf of Governor Brian Kemp, it is my pleasure to present you with this commendation, which I'm not going to read, but everyone can visit headquarters and read it there. And so please display it proudly at our International. And on behalf of Brian Kemp, he is very proud because I told him to fix those. He is very proud of what Pilot has done in the 100 years that we have been.
Thank you, Judy, for making this presentation on behalf of the governor's office. And it too will be proudly displayed at Powder National Headquarters. And both of these documents, I'm sure, Michelle, that we can reproduce in the Pilot Law and share with our entire membership. At this time, it is my pleasure to recognize the president, the past or national presidents, or the PIPs, Susan Hoffman.
It is my honor on behalf of past international presidents to present this special award to President-elect.
And this too will proudly be displayed at the Pioneer National Headquarters. It's lovely, isn't it beautiful? Thank you so much. Are you glad that you came yet? Absolutely. I have just a few announcements to make, and this wonderful part of this historic day will come to a close. The program today has been a very brief overview of Pilot's history. If you have not reserved a copy
copy of the 100th anniversary book. You may do so before you leave. Pat Jarvis will be over to the table to my right, taking orders for those books. Each of us write a part of pilot history. And some of those stories don't need to be told. But the history that you find in this book does need to be told and does need to be shared with your club members and your communities, your public libraries, and lots of other places. So please take advantage of getting one of these beautiful historic history books of our organization. Immediately following this luncheon, headquarters will be open for tours. At that time, you will be given an opportunity to pick up a free 100th anniversary coffee mug. And there also will be another free gift for everyone that goes to headquarters. So if you are not planning on attending, that might be an enticement for you to do that. If you are not familiar with how to get there, if you'll put the 102 Preston Court in your GPS, you should find it with little difficulty. For those of you who are planning to join us for a pilot social and hors d'oeuvres this evening, that will begin at 7 o'clock. It will also be one of those don't want to miss events. If you had not planned on attending and would like to attend, there is plenty of great food and wonderful fellowship to be enjoyed there. Are there any other announcements? Okay, one final thing. If you did not sign the guest book when you arrived, please do so before you leave. Thank you for following the instructions to silence your cell phone. I'm going to remind you to turn them back on because there may be family members or someone that will be trying to reach you. If there's nothing else, we will conclude this evening with a thank you and be safe traveling and start planning to be in Rochester in 2022. Thank you all so much for coming.